Advocate Network, and I want to welcome you both to the Parent Advocate Network tonight. And we have so many things to discuss, and I'm just glad that you're all joining tonight and being able to and willing to discuss the matters that we have at hand. There's a lot of people with emotional upheavals right now that are not able to understand or empathize with others because of their own personal hangups or whatever, their personal trauma, and it's starting to deteriorate a lot of the family rights movement. I've been noticing it's kind of tragic. And so, I want to talk about tonight how we can strengthen some of this. And
I was thinking
with Francesca that caused some backlash as other movements have, and I think that what the heart of what she was trying to get at was that if we stop putting money into this system that is so screwed up, that we can influence the direction, because the money won't be there. And there's just so much more at stake here that we have to look at, I think. And economics is only a small part of it.
correct.
I think that we need to be able to find ways to strengthen parents in understanding and recognizing that this is not just, oh, don't work, don't go buying things. This is more like get involved with your local government. Start actually going to those city hall meetings and
and then this person does what this person does, and Lyra, you're doing what you're doing. You're on the right path and the right idea, okay? And what I've noticed is you got a lot of people here that are very timid, okay? You got a lot of people that are feeling intimidated. You got people like me that are aggressive, that are go-getters, okay? What we need to do is what I'm thinking is like, have a collective, okay, of all these different groups, okay, and each one, they specialize in what they do. It's like I specialize in what I do, but I support all the other causes, okay, and that's the thing, okay. Everybody has to come together, okay. And like I said, I'm an aggressive person, okay. I'm a go-getter. My ultimate goal with kindergarten is getting myself to the point where I have the funding and whatnot to go out there and then just every day go from town to town and just start getting people arrested. Because I got a list growing every day of wanted offenders, okay? And it's growing every day. And if I had, this is my problem. I don't have my driver's license. I got to get my driver's license. And that's kind of that's another big story. But if I had my driver's license, I could right now, within 24 hours, I could probably get 30 offenders arrested. That's just within 100 miles of my location. That's a lot of offenders that you're getting out the streets. You know what I'm saying? So, but like I was saying, we need to have like a mother like a mother nonprofit, and then have all the smaller little ones. You know what I'm saying? That specialize in what they do, okay? And then there's also the problem with there's a lot of people that are doing the same thing over and over and over again, and they're not getting anywhere. You know, it's like anybody's pretty saying, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. There's a lot of people out there that need to change up their tactics. They and a lot of people need to get out there and start doing something. I'm at the point now where I want to do something about it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm at the stage where I want to do something. I want to be out there picketing. I want to be out there, whatever. You know what I'm saying? You get out there, hit the streets. Sitting here talking on the phone or the computer, being a keyboard warrior isn't going to get anything done. Okay, and I understand there's going to have to be people that are people smarts, and then there's going to have to be the people like me, the aggressive ones, that are going to go out there and get shit done. And then that's going to motivate the people that are timid, the ones that are feeling intimidated. Those ones, people like me, are going to motivate them to get out there and start doing stuff. Another thing that I also offer, man, is I offer free background checks. If somebody's looking for information on somebody, I can get that done, and it's free of charge. I don't charge.
That's great. And Jason, I want to just stop you right there, because we have members that are joining in this meeting tonight, and I would like everybody to please take a moment and look at the bottom of your screen and check for the chat icon at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah,
and click on that chat icon. We do have rules that we're trying to enforce here, because we want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to talk about what they're doing for this family rights movement and bringing us forward here, instead of having the division and arguments that we seem to be seeing all over the social media network.
Yeah, I understand. I was I was participating in a conversation with Jedi last night, and I think earlier today, and he's spot on a lot of stuff.
And we have Jedi here tonight, and he has actually risen his hand. And so let's say hello, Jedi. Hello to Jedi.
Hello,
Hi,
Jason.
Jedi.
Nice to see you
Hey,
again.
how's it going, buddy? And Thomas, I think I talked to you the other day too, last night.
Yes,
You were part of the
I got quite
too.
the little following, and didn't want the internet fame, but somebody has to go out there, encourage people, get them going, build them up, get them moving along. There's actually, I wanted to let people, because I invited 2 people into the Parent Advocate Network, and Thomas is one of them. And Thomas actually has some pretty good ideas. He wants to help, rally in Arizona, which I appreciate him. And we have another parent. I don't know if she's in here right now. She should be joining, Kelly. And I told her that we look for solutions in this group.
Yep, we do.
One of the other things that I started was the Fuck the System campaign.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fuck the system, and
in many ways,
it's gone worldwide.
Yes, it has.
Actually, I want to kind of explain how that started. My son and I were driving along, and we went live, and I start talking about kind of the stuff going on in the system, and me and Christine, she's in Australia, we're all on this live video together, and my son was with me, and my son started telling his story. I didn't think my son would open up. Now, mind you, my son caught me off guard, which is good. I'm very proud of him. He opened up and he told about what happened in the group home, and he threw his finger up and he said, "Fuck the system." And this is a 23-year-old kid that has high functioning autism, has been through living hell through the system. And so me and Christine went with it. We went with it, and it rung true in everybody's heart. We all just want to say, "Fuck the system." And when it comes from the mouth of babes, it makes a huge impact. So we proceeded with the Fuck the System campaign. And then from that, I was watching a lot of parents be tore down. And I've been there. Lyra's been there for me. Amelia Duran from Porthole for Justice has been there. I support both groups because you guys are doing an amazing job at trying to make something different, something that works. Some of us are better mouthpieces. Like Jason, you were saying, some of us are better protesters, some of us are better mouthpieces, some of us are better at writing legal documents, some of us we have our own set skills. And one thing I need to point out, and I say this in my live videos if you've ever watched them, is I flat out point out that everybody has a skill. Whether you harness it or not is different. It took me a while to figure out what was working best for me. So one of the other things that I noticed is I have been working on one case, and I want to touch bases on this. And we found treason with the judge. We have now filed a judicial misconduct on that case. We have filed, we actually filed with the courts. This is even funnier. We filed a revoke and invoke with the courts. So the judge right now is shitting his pants. He has now canceled. Their court date was supposed to be for the 8th. He canceled it and moved it out because we point blank, I'm going to be honest with you, we have his ass against the wall.
That's how we got to do it, though.
But you can't just do it legally. You have to speak up. One of the major things that happened is, I think, because she came onto my feed. I always offer my platform if I'm out there saying fuck the system or encouraging you to speak up, or just speaking encouraging words and helping build you up, and giving you ways to get grounded again and calm. And that's where my platform really is. And I was just amazed. I'm truly blessed, is that it just blew up. Jason, you see that it just blew. I went from being this nobody, and I'm humble in it. I'm humble. I never asked for the fame. I just wanted to help people. That's all. I just wanted people to realize that they do have power over their lives still.
Yes, they
Whether
do.
or not they know it, they have power.
You're right.
I've seen a lot of things change in the last, I'd say, 2 weeks with starting the Fuck the System campaign. And just being very encouraging with people, even when I don't want to get my ass out of bed and encourage people. And I'm like, oh, I have to hear this myself. So for me, it's also speaking words of encouragement, positivity over my own life, as well as doing it to other people. Me and Lyra were speaking a little while ago, and I just kind of want to touch base on a lot of there. I mean, I'm going to bounce around a little bit, so kind of follow along. We're speaking about when you're building an army, you cannot have a broken army to fight a battle. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. You have a ton of broken, injured warriors that's in this fight, and they're frantic. They're stuck in flight or fight. They have no skills of how to fight back. But when you can get them to calm and center themselves and get them to start speaking positivity over their own life, and in the process fucking the system, because the system doesn't want you happy, they want you dead.
They do, and they have for a very long time. We are slaves or we are dead. That's the way.
Well, you have two choices in this world, okay? Actually, we have three. One, you curl up and fucking die. I'm not curling up and dying. Two, you allow yourself to be enslaved. Or three, you become your own master. Yep. I'm my own master. And that's right. Is exactly, you want to be your own master. This means you take back the power. No longer do you give them headspace. You'll hear these in my video, Jason. You've listened to some of my videos. And even if you're having a conflict with somebody, do not take it public.
No, it's not good.
Don't. No. That is.
No. Maintain that dignity. You always got to do that.
So, Ryan, if we could, at the beginning, I'd just like to give everybody 5 minutes to introduce themselves so that we know we're able to have this on the public platform. If it's okay, I'd like to give Mim a chance now to introduce herself. She has come back. So.
Hi, Mim. I missed you, honey.
Hold on, let me unmute. You got it? Okay, good. If everybody else could please mute while she's talking, it'd be great. Thank you.
My name is Mim McCoy. That is my birth name. I am here in Shreveport, Louisiana. I am right next to Bossier City, which is where Barksdale Air Force Base is located. I have a lot that needs to be said, and so I just really am not sure where to start, aside from just really being here and being a presence. I come from a very neutral stance on everything. I'm really going to try not to get emotional, because life has just really hit real close to home for me over the past year, especially within the last month. The first thing I want to say is I grew up with a lot of kids whose parents are in the Air Force. My first love of my life, his father is in the Air Force. And so I know a lot of military individuals And I also basically did my own thing as a child. And so I know the exact opposite of government. You know, I know the street life very, very well. And all things considered, especially at this point in time, I still have some fear that crops up, but I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that this is what I chose to go through at this point in time, because of my neutrality and everything. Without getting too odd, I will say this as well. On my mother's side of the family, my heritage is royalty. I have English and Scottish of the Wallace bloodline royalty. On my father's side, I have Irish and Indian. And so I'm literally in a place of neutrality at this point in time. And honestly, I wouldn't come from any other place. I have a lot of demons that I'm still dealing with. And I'm really not ashamed to say that anymore, because none of us are perfect. And I have a lot of people who don't give a shit about me and what I do. I have a lot of individuals who like to make a mockery of my life, and that's okay as well. And I know I have enough individuals who show me love and show me compassion that I need. I have 2 children. They are biracial. So with all of that being said, I have been in the middle of my own chaos, my own personal made chaos. I have been chosen, apparently, to go through and experience and endure many different conspiracized type programming. And I'm okay with that too, because I'm not scared to speak out on that. And I'm not scared to say that it could have and could potentially still bite me in my ass. And at the same time, I'm really, really grateful that I've been able to be one of these guinea pigs with this, because I truly believe that that's what I am, because I can handle that. So with that being said, I think and I know that one thing that's going to have to stop is the aggression. There's nothing wrong with being assertive. I'm a very, very assertive individual. Jason, I heard you saying that you are also a very aggressive, fine. Assertive is the bridge that I prefer to use when it comes to that, because I know me, when I get aggressive, something is going to die, whether it is my spirituality, my brain cells, you know, plants, whatever. Okay, something's going to give up the ghost. And that is something that I'm not doing any longer to myself or anybody else. So the one thing that's going to have to stop is the aggression towards anybody. I don't care if it's the system, because I'm going to tell you something about the system. First and foremost, here in Louisiana, and this is something that I've really been meditating on, as far as the lack thereof of parental rights within the state of Louisiana. But I do know this, that each and every time I have had any form of court dealings here in my particular area, it has been very fair and very just. And that's going to piss some people off, and that's okay, because it needs to come up. And that's where I'm going to leave it at this point in time, because I've got so much that needs to be said that I want to share. And so I just want to give you guys a little bit of food for thought. And thank you, Lyra, for letting me speak and introduce myself. And thank you, Dale. I love you very much.
Thank you, Mim. And now, and it's great to hear your non-judgmental perspective, because I mean, you know, we need to keep things level-headed here, because we can't be too, like you say, aggressive. We don't want to hurt anybody here. We want to come to solutions and resolutions that are going to bring families closer together, communities closer together. We want to talk about bringing humanity back to the human race, because that's what we see here, is a total dissociation from humanity. And with that, I would like to give Dale 5-minute introduction on the floor, if you'd like to. Here, let me unmute. Hold on.
Hello, everybody. Hear me loud and clear?
Loud and clear, Dale.
Let's get the microphone down here.
Oh,
So-
yeah, that's right.
So listen, I'm going to make this short and sweet. As I'm 67 years old, and life has brought me to the nexus of this strategy. Starting with, you take a hybrid. You start with Jesus to love your enemies, and then you go to General Sun Tzu in the Art of War, and the supreme art in war is to subdue your enemies without fighting them. Okay, so love and nonviolence is the supreme strategy and the most powerful strategy, and evidenced by Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Cesar Chavez, Nelson Mandela, Bishop Tutu. Put the guns down and put your thinking cap on, and don't burn, baby, burn, but learn, baby, learn, so you can earn, baby, earn. Okay, so having said that, we're gonna embark with, okay, so what do we do now? And then you follow Buckminster Fuller. And he said, you can't change anything by fighting the existing reality. If you want to change something, build a better model that makes the old model obsolete. So this is the model that I'm working on, the models. And some great things have happened this week. Lyra, one of my friends I've known for 50 years, we were school kids together. His father was assemblyman in the Beverly and the state government in California. He was assistant district attorney for the city of Torrance, and now he runs a commercial real estate firm. And I had a phone call with him, and we are now trying to find not a attorney, but the attorney who's going to manage these nonprofits and put Boulder Gardens and Coalition for Children and Mim's organization down in Shreveport, get them all under the UFK umbrella as a faith-based organizations. Nonprofit.
Jason maybe too. He wants to get something going.
Yeah, exactly. So one at a time. The first, I'm meeting Saturday. Belden Gelf, who was mentored by Buckminster Fuller, is coming down to Boulder Gardens in Yucca Valley, California, and Steve Forrest, another builder, is going up there. And so the first project that we're going to do, it's a burning issue, is build under the dome design concept a women's and men's male and female bathroom and shower facility with green architecture. And so we're really we're putting these organizations together to build habitat for families for Coalition, and also we're planning a meeting with Rabbi Lerner in Berkeley, and we're going to put the spiritual component in here so that we can get all phases of everybody's gestalt functioning in harmony, and so this is, no matter who you are or what you are, where you are, or why you're going there or not, it doesn't matter. You share the sacred breath of life, and you're a part of the world and the universe and one, and you've got your passport, and we want to set up the organizations that so there's an alternative to there's a model, an alternative to the existing reality. We don't have to break up families. We don't have to rip and tear and demolish everything. We can just get a hold of it, get the title on a house, rehab it, make it conform to all the governing agencies' regulations and health codes and building codes and fire codes, and then put a program in place and have a 24-hour life coach there. And if there's somebody that is taken into custody and the kids are taken into put into some institution, like Child Services does, we can put the family back together, have the parent serve their time under house arrest with the family together, not broken up, and there's a program for the kids, the parents, for forgiveness, reconciliation, restoration, and resurrection.
And
Okay.
rehabilitation too.
Yeah, well, that's restoration. That's what it is. That's so. Regardless of where you are and who you are, your family is going to stay together. That's the goal, and work the problem.
Right.
So, and the essence of it is we're not coming in as an enemy of the state, but we're coming in as a resource, welcomed, and that we cooperate and keep the family together, keep the institutions together, keep the country together, keep the planet together, and so on. So that's
Amen.
that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Dale. So now Jason, Jason, are you there? He disappeared. Well, um, Thomas, are you there?
Yes,
Would you like to introduce yourself?
absolutely.
All right, go for it. You got
My
5
name,
minutes.
that's fine. My name's Thomas Crane. I've been fighting this whole thing. I've been on the inside and the outside. I was a foster child, and I also have been fighting. I think some of the things that they do and the way I think, more on the line with what Dale says. You know, the way they do things isn't the right way. Keeping families together and their model of reunification, you know, it shouldn't be about the money, first and foremost. And second of all, if that's the way that they want to do it, why can't they take that money and invest that money in some kind of services to keep our families together? You know, there's so much money that's going around there, and you know what? They're not thinking of everybody, whether it's a parent, whether it's a child. They're more out to hurt the child. Instead of putting, like I said, services in place to keep these families together and help them be better. And then when you ask for help, you're damned if you ask for help, because if you ask for help, they're going to follow you forever. And even another thing with what Dale said is he was talking about getting services, even safe houses where it is backed by the government and everything like that, that if somebody does need services, instead of yanking the children, taking them to a safe house where all these services are there to better them as an individual and a family, instead of punishing them and causing a lot more harm down the line.
Yes. Thank you. So, when you were in foster care, how long were you there? And how many
I
houses?
was I was in foster care at the age of 14 all the way to the age of 18 when they actually tried bribing me to stay in the system until I was 21. But being in the system and seeing how they basically didn't give a shit, and excuse my language, but they didn't give a shit about me, I didn't want it. 18 years old, I told them to let me the hell out of jail. I said, I'm 18, I'm my own person, it's time for me to live my life. Through my whole foster care, when it first started, I was in a foster home with that my parents knew. But because they were more worried about the funding and everything, they kept labeling me as a troubled child. So with them labeling somebody as a troubled child, once you get that title, it's more money that they get. So I kept bounced around, and eventually I went in because my father had a PFA and he didn't have nowhere. So when my father got a place of his own, the next thing they did was use to his advantage, and claim that he was an alcoholic. irregardless, drinking alcohol and doing drugs are two different aspects I have. There is a difference between an alcoholic and somebody that just drinks beer, time to time. I don't look up how, I don't promote it, but I don't decline it. If somebody's drinking and their kids are taken care of, not getting beat and whatnot, that's fine. But when they're drinking and they're not taking care of their children, they're beating their children and just not caring about their children, that is when I have the issue. We all have different ways to cope. We all have different mechanisms of coping. As long as they have a roof over their head and they're taken care of, it shouldn't matter.
No, you're right. You're right, Thomas. And thank you for joining us tonight. Your perspective is valued. And
Thank you.
Jedi has risen his hand. I think he wants to ask a question. Go for it, Jedi.
He's on mute.
I am mute.
I got it.
Okay.
All right. I know a lot about Thomas's story. In fact, I worked very closely with Thomas and let him cry, let him talk, let him vent. Thomas also has children himself, and I have also been a foster child, so I think that's where me and Thomas relate. So we were talking in the chat while he was chatting too, and I'm gonna have to agree to disagree with you, Mim, because I have things in the system has been so sugar coated and so watered down that at this point parents are fired up, foster children are fired up, my son is fired up, and he's going full blaze. And whether or not, I see what you're saying as far as the aggression and stuff. Don't be aggressive, this, that, and the other. And I'm not targeting you out, please don't think I am, because at this point fire has to be fought with fire, where no water's putting it out. No water's putting it out. The water's just not doing it. No ice is putting it out. And to hear stories like Thomas's story, where, okay, his father had a beer or two. Now, he's talked to me immensely, and he's not told his complete story, but his father had a beer or two, and he was well taken care of. Thomas, I love you. You know I do.
Absolutely.
And then to have this child taken and put in the system and abused for no reason is absolutely ridiculous. That infuriates me. That child was harmed for no reason. And because he was acting out, I want to alliterate what's going on here. Because he was acting out, because he was not with the ones that love him, with the ones that weren't abusing him, were not with the ones that were taking care of him, who at night tucked him in his bed, came in and gave him a glass of water, gave him his teddy bear, covered him up at night. He was acting out. That's more emotional trauma and psychological trauma than anything else you can do to a child. That it was inappropriate.
I apologize for smiling like that. It wasn't to you. It was actually to a text from Mim. It is not okay. It is absolutely not okay. And I believe Mim wanted to say something in response. And so.
Well, I want you to know, Mim, that I have a 23-year-old son who's now drug addicted. None of you know this. And I'm fighting it myself in my home, and I'm losing my son slowly. When he fought back and said, fuck the system, it was wartime for me. My son opened his mouth.
So, there are a lot of things that can tear kids apart. Something that I want to bring up that I have been practicing recently, not as much as I could. However, this has been something that has really assisted me at this point in time. It's called neuro-linguistic programming. And even though it has the word programming in it, it is ultimately a deprogramming of the subconscious mind. Without saying too much, it is what it is at this point in time. I have DNA from all this different heritage on both of these ends, okay? And so I have these visions of the past as far as royalty is concerned and slavery is concerned. And I have thankfully been able to come to the understanding that that's not me, because I believe that I became incarnate at this point in time, not ever having been in this playing field, so to speak. That way I could have this stance. Now, with that being said, I know that all of us are going to play key roles in this, okay? And what we are doing and what we have been doing is definitely organizing. Now, everything that is under the sun is not new, okay? In one form or another, it has happened, it has been said, and it is what it is. I don't know if you guys know anything about the scarab beetle of King Tutankhamun's, and it is made out of a compound of glass, and the only other place where they have found the exact same or very similar compound of this glass is the first nuclear testing site, okay? And so with that being said, at this point in time, I honestly believe, because of all of the downloads that I have gotten, I believe that none of us are guilty at this point in time that are here at this particular time. To an extent, yes, because we all have our own free will. And so we are capable of making our own decisions. I have fought myself with drugs and alcohol for years and years and years. And this is something that I am still fighting at this point in time. And I know how much it has destroyed my life before. And I know how bad it could potentially get if I do not continue to do something to work on keeping that fog out of my head. Okay. You know, the system at this point in time, just like when you look at normal individuals that are on the street, we'll take me as an example because I'm not selling pills anymore. I made the decision to stop selling pills because that is not something that I would like to do for the rest of my life in order to take care of my family. However, those were my original intentions. Just like when I was in the escort industry, that was my original intention, was to be able to have the money in order to fix things, okay? But each individual is still an individual. And so when you take it from the commoners, okay, us street people, us parents, those of us that are not in a position higher up on the chain, okay, we all have issues that we have been wrong for. We all have issues that we have been wrong for that maybe we have been so far gone we didn't know. We were still in ignorance, okay? Now, at the same token, if we are human beings, which at this point in time we are, you have the system as well. And so you're going to have corrupt individuals on that end of the spectrum as well. It just is what it is because we're humans and not everybody has come to a conclusion of not being an asshole. So I see what you're saying as far as fighting fire with fire, and I'll put this into another reference real quick about myself. I am an Aries, so those are my characteristic traits. That's my sun, and my moon is in Leo, so those are my emotions. So I am literally a double fire sign, and I fight myself with fire on a regular basis, and it is not working. My emotions are always way the hell up here, and my characteristics are always way the hell over here. And I have noticed that when I am around individuals who have water signs, who are a more absorbing sign, it allows me to see where I am projecting emotions in a flame, in a blaze, which could be glorious, okay, but it allows me to see where water, so to speak, it's kind of an odd reference I'm using here, is necessary. What's up, Thomas? Way to go. Cancer, I assume, or Pisces, Aquarius, one of them. So anyway, fighting fire is not a good idea, and I'm going to tell you why. Because we have technology now that has been being researched for so long that nothing is hidden anymore. Nothing is hidden. Everything is out in the open, and it's necessary, and it is pissing a lot of people off. And at the same token, a lot of individuals are not realizing that the reason they're so pissed off is because somebody has a joystick in the middle of their back. And it's really frustrating to know that it can get to that point. However, from where I have been experimented on with certain joysticks in my back. I will say this, that thankfully I am enlightened enough to know that they could do whatever the heck they wanted to do. If they wanted to blow Shreveport off the map, they're going to do that. If they wanted to blow Florida off the map, they're going to do that. And so at this point in time, we have to really think about what a terrorist is. What does it mean to be a terrorist? Because we have persons who are accused of being terrorists who aren't, and then we have individuals who are on the verge of wanting to be a terrorist because they want to fight fire with fire. And Jedi, I'm not saying that that's where you're coming from at all, and I'm not putting you in that category, because I know when, and I'll say this in closing, I know whenever my son was 2 years old, going on 3, and I just had my daughter, and my 2-year-old walked up to me after we had been alone in our apartment for 24 hours without any food. I was wrapping their butts in t-shirts because their father was out smoking crack with street prostitutes. You know, when he looked up at my face and he asked me where his dad was, and he looked at me at 2, 3 years old, and I'm sitting there crying hysterically, and he patted me on my leg and had to be an adult at 3 years old, man, it was heart-wrenching. It hurt so bad. And so therefore I started using the fire with fire tactic. I really want to say this too, because it's relevant. I go back to my first love, my puppy love, whose father is in the military. Whenever he broke up with me, he was 16, the first time he broke up with me. And it was because other people thought I was a slut. And so my idea of fighting fire with fire, well, what can I do to make him jealous? And they want to call me a slut. And so therefore, I'm going to go have sex with as many people as I want to. I'm going to show them.
Very good point.
I believe that what we have here is a lot of things that are conflicting, and we want to talk about building communities, but we have this feeling of anger and anxiety towards what has been done to us. And what Mim is expressing, in my opinion, is that the going and fighting back, going and making a big commotion is not going to actually affect a real change. It's going to get people arrested and going to get...
That's not what my intentions were.
I understand. And so this is about, we want to get to better communication here. And I mean, this is what this is about, because we want to make things work right here. So go for it, Jason.
I'd like to elaborate on this. Okay. What I mean by fighting fire with fire is, if you sit and think about it, who's against us? It's the system. What is the system? The system is the laws. It's the people that are corrupting our laws, this and that. So how do we fight back? We fight back with the laws that we still have in place. Okay? Use what we have. Fight fire with fire. That's what I'm talking about. Okay? We need to get some lawyers. We need to get some prosecutors. We need to get people that are in the judicial system, people that are in Congress that would side with us, that are going to understand where we're coming from, that would advocate for us. That is what I'm talking about. Fight fire with fire legally. That's what I'm talking about. Think about it. BLM does that. I mean, they've organized. You got Antifa, they've organized. Why the hell can't we organize? We just got to be smart about it. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Thank you.
Just I'm one of those ones. If I was a lawyer, I'm going to be in there. I'm going to be aggressive about it. That's what I'm saying. That's the kind of person I am. I'm a go-getter. I'm not saying I want to go out there and thump, although I can be that way. I'll admit that, but that's the kind of person I am. Okay? So, yeah, that's what I meant by that.
Thank you, Jason. I think Ryan would like to say something as well. So thank you for explaining yourself a little more, Jason, and let's let Ryan talk. Go for it.
When we're talking about fire with fire, Jason's heard our plan. He sat there right there when me and Christine Mueller. Now, this is Australia and Arizona working together for our kids, for our kids. Not about us, not about us adults. Fuck our feelings, fuck who we are. It doesn't matter. Our kids, our kids. Number one, what's the most precious resource on this planet? Our children. What's the most trafficked out being on this planet? Our children. I don't care about your feelings. I don't care about Joe Blow's feelings. Yeah, your feelings are fine. And Danny, I've gotten to the point where I don't really give a flying two rats behind what your feelings are. At the end of the day, what I give a crap about is if you're going to fight for the children. And one way of fighting for the children is one, boycotting. You're going to boycott. And how you're going to boycott is you're going to grow your own vegetable gardens.
Exactly.
Yes.
You're going to get your own chickens. You're going to have your own eggs. You're pulling money out of the economy. As you pull money out of the economy, and some people are like, this is a freaking outrageous, crazy idea. And Christine and I from Australia spoke about it for like 3 hours last night with people.
I did this morning too for 3 hours
Yeah.
with her.
Now, not only are you going to boycott that, okay? Now you're going to resort to holistic medicine.
This
You're
is
going to
okay.
boycott medicine.
Yeah.
And then now you're going to now as you're boycotting each one, you're going to pinpoint each one of these things, folks. It's not that hard. It's not that simple to grow. It's not that hard to grow a tomato plant. You're paying how much for tomatoes? How much per pound? Now you've just pulled that out of the economy. Now, mind you, in the process, yes, you might be damaging some farmers along the way. Don't get me wrong, people. I understand the concern here. But the government is screwing over our farmers anyways. I have a friend who's a farmer. You know what he gets for a head of lettuce? For each head of lettuce, 2 cents. How much are you paying for your head of lettuce?
$1.50, $2.
Okay, point made. You know what I asked him about? I had the gully nerve to call him up and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And you know what he told me? Well, one, the government would be forced to pay me more if people would quit buying my produce. Think about it. And two, the stores wouldn't have. They have almost a $200 to $300% markup on the vegetables, and they're getting a penny.
I can take you to a
For a
place
head
in
of lettuce.
Seattle. I can take you to a place in Seattle that throws tomatoes away by the boxes. I can load up a van in about 15 minutes, daily, and they just throw them away. It's sickening. America wastes more food than any other country. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if we do something like that, we can even share. If somebody needs something, sharing.
Community garden.
Well, and so then here, let's bring it back to what Dale and I and Misty and Mim and Jedi and others have been discussing and what we're forming here. This is where the root of this is. It's about community building, because we can do this in neighborhoods. We don't just do it for ourselves, but for our neighbors, and exchange of produce, exchange, and go back to the exchange system, because the monetary system is about to crumble. I mean, we've already got the US dollar at a lowest rate it's been in over 10 years, I believe. And it's just going to keep on crumbling. And then there's all these cryptocurrencies out there that are making a big hype, but the easiest way to go about this, I believe, is to go back to the basics, back to being self-supporting, self-sustaining, being able to work in our communities, build our communities back to, where we all help each other. There's a book out there, it's called It Takes a Village, and it's about raising children, but what it's really about is community building. And that's, I think, what we want to do here, is to bring back to community building, to working together, to not being angry, but to start providing services and assistance to people who have not been educated on how to parent, how to live self-sustainably, and how to be in good, positive relationships. And so I think that we are all on the same track here, and that's a great thing that we can all agree on. And this is what we want people to start doing everywhere, is working together and agreeing that there are things that we can take care of in our community, our basic needs in our community, and just start building it there. And, you know, I believe in not paying for services at a high rate. I believe in paying for services that are rendered that are equal to what I'm paying them, you know? And I don't believe in the pharmaceutical industry at all. I don't get vaccinated for many reasons. And you know, one of them is that they still have poisons in those vaccines that are killing people. And so homeopathy is a big thing for me. I'm a Reiki master of 17 years. I do Reiki healing every day, give Reiki healing attunements every Saturday, and, you know, talk about the ways that we can work together and heal each other and ourselves, because this is, like you're saying, wounded warriors. We want those warriors to get healthy again, to have that strength again, to be able to fight the real fight with the proper tools.
While we're focused on agriculture, this is the other component to habitat. And I bring everybody's attention to Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And this is the science of plant food diets. And basically, to begin with, you know, we stop abusing, killing, and eating animals. We stop abusing and killing human beings. We stop abusing and killing planet Earth. Now, the best model for agriculture as a community is Monroe, Oregon. Now, here is a community that everybody participates in a community garden. They and nobody pays for vegetables or fruit. Okay, it's just an even exchange. There's no consideration for money. Everybody works a little bit, grows a little food, and there's an abundance of food to eat. That's the best community model. Individually, part of our component in providing this habitat and program for Coalition is also to teach them to be self-sufficient in agriculture. See, what this system does is make dependence. If you ask people to go today in the average city to say, okay, all you've got, you don't have any money, all you've got is the air, the water, the land, and the sun. Now go to it. They'd starve to death. Right in the midst of plenty. We are woefully ignorant of the things we need to know to sustain ourselves. We're disconnected from our environment. We don't have a clue how to function without money or a credit card or a Vons or a Walmart or a job. We have a job. We're alive. We have what it is before us. You know, so. Anybody who gets possession of a home and it's fee simple, the plan is, okay, now what we want to do is put solar panels so it's self-sufficient in energy. We want to put a permaculture garden in, and believe me, if you have more at least 5,000 or 6,000 square foot of a lot. You can produce enough on that lot to feed a family of four. It was 7 days a week, 3 meals a day, no problem. Okay, period. And even if you're in Colorado at 8,000 feet, you can get a leafy green freight machine, and it'll make on 320 square feet. It'll make 800 heads of lettuce a week. So it's just putting these systems in place. And so what we want to do is if there's a traumatic experience and the family needs a refuge, we've got empty houses that they can come in and move in, and no sweat. Okay, we want to be like nature. Just because all the trees all the birds have trees doesn't mean the forest stops growing. Okay. We need excess capacity. So if there's a hurricane or if there's an earthquake, there says, well, we have 20 or 30 million. We have tens of thousands of communities that are vacant and 20 or 30 million houses. So listen, let's just move these people over here and get them out of this mess. This stupidity that's going on in Puerto Rico is because of scarcity. And that's now when you say F the system, I'm all for you, but let's put something in place before we burn the house down. Let's get another house built, or a better house, or 2 or 3 or 4 houses, and so let's do the building and create this model and create the abundance. So they say they look at us and they're playing with money and say, well, I want to join you. Well, throw your money away, because we're interested in is people. We're not interested, that's what we're interested in. Families and children and things that are alive. The people where ideas come from. Ideas, you can look at a dollar bill all day long and it won't give you one idea.
Thomas has risen his hand. I think he'd like to ask a question.
Yeah, but Dale, here's the question. And me and Jedi have spoke about this all the time, a couple times. This is probably where we got, we're looking at it a little bit different, and maybe, we don't understand your point of where you're. I mean, I understand, don't burn the bridge down before you get over it, nor to speak. But
yeah, basically, what I'm saying, you gotta take. Remember, this evolution of man and the stature, growing in stature, as you grow as a child, you wear out your shoes, right? And you get a new pairs of shoes. Well, civilization isn't any different. As we grow, first when we began, we started out following animals. And we paid attention to what they did, and somehow they got us to the water, somehow they got us to food. And then God said, well, listen, they're chewing on this stuff and it grows. Why don't we just grow it and we can stay in one place? And so that was a big step. And then as we developed architecture and culture, then feudalisms came into being, and then there was a squabble over who was in control. And then they say, well, there's nothing right or wrong about feudalism. It's just a sure whim of whoever's the strongest. And then the next step was monarchy, rule of law. Okay, then everybody has to go according to the law, even the king, even Trump. Okay, so then we have representative governments and republics, and this evolution. So now it's a matter of you're free to speak and free to assemble, and you have freedom of religion, free to think how you believe. And now we're not done yet. Okay, now this is the republic and representative government and rule of law is another pair of shoes that we've outgrown. So this model that we're talking about, this cobbling that we're doing, is we have to cobble a new pair of shoes, and this is what we're doing right here. This is like the Constitutional Convention of 1776, although it's the convention of 2018, and we're building a new world, building a new civilization.
That's right, Dale. And now we have 2 people that want to speak. Mim rose her hand first, and then we'll go Jedi. Okay?
So whenever I was facing 25 to life back in 2012, and this is a story that I haven't been willing to share up until this point, but I'm going to go ahead and share it.
Just keep it short.
Okay, so basically I got busted by the FBI. They were wanting information on an individual who was a local pimp. And they wanted him for trafficking of children, among money laundering and all of that good stuff there. And so basically these people followed me around for quite some time. I tried going to rehab. I got arrested to get away from them asking me to bust some of my friends because these individuals, I had never seen them do anything remotely as corrupt as what they were saying they were doing. Now, it came time for me to bust one of my friends, and I had been doing drugs and I wanted to go to sleep. In the meantime, the pimp that I was with had found another girl to come work for us. Basically, I got arrested for trafficking of children for sexual purposes among 6 other felonies that night. The girl that was brought into our circle was 13 years old. When I was 17 is when I was introduced into the escort industry. I was a child, true indeed. However, I knew what the heck I was doing. Now, my thing is this. I find it very, very ironic that the same charge that they wanted to charge the person that they were originally after was exactly what I got charged with, okay? And I took the girl to the hospital because something was not right, and I knew she was young. I did not have any clue she was 13 years old. You know, when I was 13, I had 21-year-old boyfriends because I damn sure didn't look like I was 13. I just did, okay? And so I never hung out with people my age. Now, this girl, her name is Amber. She told me a story, and she told me lies, of course, but she also did tell me about how these people who were supposed to take her into a foster home actually brought her from where she was all the way down here. Okay, now the year prior to me getting caught up, found, whatever, with this child, 2 other men had actually been busted with this girl when she was 12 years old. One of them was doing life and the other one was doing like 15 years. And then bam, the next year, here I am, because when I refused to bust one of my friends, because there's loyalty involved there, and I had never seen them do anything wrong or force anybody into anything, let alone a child, okay? And then bam, here I am the next year found with this child, this 13-year-old girl. Now, with that being said, there's a lot of corruption there, and there is trafficking schemes. I believe it's called Pizzagate. We spoke on that before, and
Yep.
that is something that has to stop. I have a notion that a lot of, because if I've been an experiment, guess what? All of these other conspiracies, all this other cat and mouse bullshit, these are all failed attempts at fixing the problem. Okay, and so yeah, I'm pissed. I get pissed off. I get scared. I get frustrated. I know several times, I'm sure Dale and Lyra, you've heard me say, you know what, I'm just gonna blow the planet up. But you know what? That is not my button to press, thankfully. And you know, everything at this point in time, since we are all being watched, since we are all now being really forced to bring everything into the light, then I absolutely agree. All of the corruption on the other side absolutely needs to be brought into the light, because at this point in time, yeah, they're gonna fight with fire if there's not a resolution. And so I'll say this in closing. I beg you guys to look into neuro-linguistic programming. It is reprogramming and deprogramming the subconscious mind, because mass media control has been going on since TVs were invented, and I feel before that as well. And so at this point in time, we have people who are pissed with good reason, and we have people that are pissed and have absolutely no idea where it's coming from, why they're not able to heal themselves, why they're still getting high, why they're still beating their wife. They don't understand. And it's because of how our subconscious has been programmed. And so with that being said, I got to answer my door, guys. I had to get that out there.
Thank you, Mim. I appreciate that. And this is true. And this has to do, I believe, in my opinion, with very old programming model. Dale was mentioning it a little bit earlier about, you know, the fight over property and feudalism and then the monarchy and the progression, what we're still stuck with a lot of that old programming. And so, Jedi, you wanted to say something? I'll let you speak now.
Well, NLP has been around for a very long time. It's a form of brainwashing. Definitely look it up. There's a magician. He's very famous. It can make you think whatever you want. It can control you at any time at the snap of this. CPS workers are trained in this. How do I know? Because I happen to know a CPS worker in Arizona that they're trained in this. They make you know. They make you think that you are the person they say. They use certain techniques on you. It's programmed into your TV. It's all around us. Now, here's realistically, and I know I'm followed daily in my phone. I'm followed. I have FBI that sits outside my house. I make a pot of coffee. I take 2 coffee cups out with coffee in it, one with cream, the other one with sugar. That's how well I've gotten to know my FBI agents. And donuts. Now, you're going to be watched either way. One way or another, you're going to be watched. The choice is yours. Are you going to let the fear take you, or are you going to overcome it? When I fight fire with fire, I fight it with fire. My way of fighting with fire was becoming very vocal. Thomas will tell you, everybody waits for me to come on and build them back up. The system sucks. The system sucks. When you finally realize what's really going on, and you go down the rabbit hole, and Mim, I know a lot about that rabbit hole. I've been down it. I have images that are, yeah. Let's just say they're not for the faint of heart. So if you can't handle human trafficking, don't look into it. The stuff that happens, the elites, okay, we'll kind of back up to what the Clintons did in 1997. That just made it an open human trafficking ring. That's all it did. It made it easier for them to get kids. That's exactly what they did. And 85% of the children that are put in foster care system are trafficked out. How do I know this? Well, I actually have exposed it a couple times. My cousin was found in the California sting last year. My female cousin.
Oh, well, yeah, that's right. I remember that.
So, if you think I won't fight fire with fire, and I won't be out there slinging mud, and if it comes to the point where we have to take up arms, that I won't be there, that's my family. I promised to protect them, and I failed doing so, and I will not fail them again. And I am building an army, and I will keep encouraging people. Jason has seen me do it. To keep fighting back, stay strong, deep breaths, clear your mind, think with a clear mind. It is important that we all think with a clear mind, and we use tact when we do this. I don't want it to come to a point where we have to use arms. I'd prefer that we be able to resolve this legally. But here's the realistics of it, guys, and that's realistics. And I've been researching this for a while. This goes a lot deeper than what people think it does.
Yes, it does.
It's ingrained into our government.
That's
California is the biggest. Please forgive me for saying this, but the biggest human trafficking ring there is on this planet. It's frightening when they are passing laws so that minor children, adult men, mind you, can go and marry your 8-year-old daughter. We got a problem.
Yep.
Time to wake up, folks.
That's
Time
right.
to fight back. Aggression might be needed, and our words being aggressive just might be the right answer.
Thank you, Jedi. And we have our caller here who has not spoken up yet. I didn't know if you had the volume. Now you have the volume on. Would you like to introduce yourself? Hello?
Was that me that finally pushed the right buttons to speak?
Yes, yes. Who's this?
Oh, okay. Well, I heard that at the beginning of the discussion, but then I didn't remember what the number was, so I just guessed *6.
Who is this?
This is Marilyn Yamamoto.
Oh, welcome, Marilyn. Thank you for joining us tonight. Marilyn, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, I've been helping families with cases and working on legislative reform for CPS issues for 5 years. And I have my game plan or strategy narrowed down to what my research says is the only way to fix all this. So I thought this was about reform of CPS. I'm not hearing.
There's a lot of
well,
things, Marilyn, there's a lot of things we discuss here at the Parent Advocate Network, and we look for solutions of all kinds here, whether they be community building, whether they be speaking out, protesting, whether it be going to court with parents who are in the system and helping guide them to become pro se representatives. And basically it's about empowering parents to take their rights back and to keep their families together, however we do that. So you are definitely in the right group here.
Okay, well, the only person that I could relate to here was Dale, because he's come up with a concept that I've read about before, and it happens to be in California. I think it's called Olive Crest. And while that organization, a church organization that provides help for families to avoid CPS intervention,
Olive
even
Crest?
though I believe
Was Olive what? I'm sorry.
Olive Crest is based in Santa Ana. I believe they're connected more than I would like to see with DCFS or whatever they call it in Los Angeles County. But it's a solution that's more like what Dale has in mind. If families need help, give them help before CPS knocks on the door. That I could totally relate to.
Yeah, I want to comment on that as well. See, what my idea is to build the institution separate and apart from any other, from the government entities, and just be in place and be able to say we're available to take these kids and the families and their loved ones and work out whatever problems exist.
Yes, that's what that's what we have been working on here at the Parent Advocate Network for quite a few weeks, and putting together the safe houses, not only for people who have abuse and substance issues, but also for families that are in distress because of environmental factors in their housing.
Yeah.
And
well, Texas has also they're working on that concept too. But in my opinion, the one in California and Texas, they're a little too closely connected with CPS.
That's right. And we want to be totally separate from them. Totally.
Well, absolutely, they should be.
I want to mention this because the connection that I see is every student of any of the social sciences is required to do so many hours of community service. So if we can link ourselves with the universities and get the kids that are going after those social science degrees to work as life coaches, like if for instance, every habitat has 8 life coaches that are attached to the university. One of those life coaches serves an 8-hour shift. That's their requirement is for community service. Now, what you do is you get the doctors of sociology to put the life coaches program in place, and that team that's attached to that family works collectively to analyze all the problems that exist from the standpoint of job skills, education, the psychological challenges that they may face because they're financially stressed, getting them the spiritual coping mechanisms in place so that they're able to navigate the world without destroying themselves and being destructive. So it's a comprehensive program, and the thing that you have to, when you interface with the state, what has to be done is you have to be approved and licensed as an alternative to foster care and all the other crazy things that they've got going on now. So
Right.
The
Well,
license.
We are working on this very topic right now with the Family Rights Party. We have lawyers working on putting together the paperwork for this so that it can be not only a certified alternative that judges will acknowledge and work with, but also that the state and federal governments actually fund it, actually fund some of this.
Well, now wait a
programs.
minute. Now wait a minute. Let me throw in this funding thing. You see where federal Title IV E&D funding messed
Right.
up?
Right. Well, yes.
No. I say the very top of the priorities would be keep the government out of the funding because they'll mess it up.
Okay.
That's
But
Lyra.
what I wanted to say,
Lyra, this is where I depart with that idea about having the government funded. I don't want the government to fund anything. I want it to be totally self-sufficient.
Okay, we
But-
could totally.
absolutely.
But I definitely I am on board with getting the certification and the licenses to be an adjunct to child services. So we operate independently. Operate independently because unless the judge gives
Yes, independently from the state. Yes.
yeah, independently from the state, but we want to have all the qualifications and practices and policies and procedures in place to satisfy the court's requirements.
And that's where I again say the Family Rights Party, and I'm the secretary of the Family Rights Party, and we're working on the legislation to provide for that certification.
And Lyra, I want to say this. I want to get our organization so solid that when the law enforcement comes on the scene and starts to make the moves, that we're already designated as a place to bring the whole family.
Absolutely.
Including the offender. And the life
well,
coaching.
not here.
And the life.
Here,
Wait, if I can just interject, there is, see, I not only have the Family Rights Party working on this, I have Anonymous working on this. So we have some Anonymous members working on and have already put together some paperwork and putting this together as far as making it so that we bring the whole family in, but we have separate wings separating, because if you have two adults that do not get along together and they have a common child, it is not safe for them to be in the same space together, very possibly. And so we want to be able to provide safe environments, most importantly for our children.
But
hold on, Gail, I object. I completely object. You're going to put, now I have a family that I'm a mother I'm working with, not a family, a mother. CPS reintegrated the abuser in the home. He reoffended. No. Abusers,
okay, let me qualify. Let me I got to qualify something here. Okay, every family that the enforcement portion of the system that goes onto a scene, they make an evaluation. Okay, let me give you a napkin sketch of the type of people that we're talking about in the scenario where they're just thrown into the same home. Pop is mom's away visiting relatives, and Pop is working 2 jobs to take care of the family. There's a babysitter with the kids, and he goes out and he has a few beers, and he gets popped for his second DUI. This is a working stiff who has a job and a family that's functioning, and because of the paperwork that's in front of the law enforcement officer, the kids are taken to child services, and because maybe the babysitter's underage, she doesn't know exactly where mom is, and just a tenant result. Maybe the babysitter's smoking pot with her boyfriend with the kids present when they come on the scene. whatever the situation is, where there's basically a family more or less intact, but they're victims, and the kids get swooped up, and so the officers can say, okay, well, listen, Pop, you're going to have to serve at least 60 days in the can, but you can do it in your house and get a work release program, and the family can stay together, and everything's okay. The focus is keep the families together. If there's extenuating circumstances where there's a restraining order against a father and there's violence involved, we may have to take the father to one residence and the kids and the mother to another one, because we got anger management issues, we got substance abuse issues, we've got so we're not just saying lump them together. Every individual circumstance is different, but the idea is we have to have the habitat in order that, and the father has to say, oh, he says, look, you got to sober up. You have a problem with substance, and you internally, when you get under the influence, you act out violently. So it's not going to work if you want to association with your family. Then sobriety has to come first. Okay,
Dale, let me tell you my experience with abusers. Once an abuser, always abuser. I was beat on daily as a child. No. And drug addicts, drug addicts can clean up. They can sober up. They can be good parents. But I'm being very honest with you, that's few and far between. And you're wanting to place, and I'm going to completely argue this out with you. I know plenty of children that have went through it. I've been a child of this. And putting an offender in with a child that he's offended or she has offended
Ryan,
is
you're
ridiculous.
not listening. Ryan, okay, please. Mim would like to say something, and then I'm going to say something, because everybody needs to be listening to each other and what we're saying. Okay? Okay, Mim, it's your turn to speak, please.
Okay, so I first want to say that I have been observing this kind of from afar, because I've been back and forth, and the vibe, so I don't know who was in what conversation, but the vibe went from a really strong, really unified kind of vibe to just like, we're going to blow up the planet. So I want to say this. I was molested by a family member as a child, okay? And I love that man with all of my heart today, and I am so grateful that he is alive and that we are in communication with one another, because I know that, yes, substances can fog you to a point, as well as different programming that is happening to individuals, as well as ancestral lineage and so on and so forth. Okay, and I also want to say this. The father of my children, he broke my nose, he smushed my face in, okay? Yes, he's a very, very abusive individual. However, if I have the capability to forgive the individual that did that to me, and see that this individual is in forgiveness over the situation as well, it took what it took, and there was no program set in place to even attempt to fix that. The second thing I want to say is people can be forced, but nobody can be forced to make a change. And I believe that that is going to be included in all of this. And I really don't think that anybody needs to have a fear of somebody like, oh, well, he just raped his kid and beat his wife, and now we're going to just suck them all into our territory. No, because a person cannot be forced into making a change, okay? And so many chances can be allotted to an individual who does indeed want to make a change, and there is such a thing as having contact with people who are in recovery from a distance. There's many, many ways that this could be looked at and done to where recovery within the family and keeping ties together can be kept together. But nobody, first and foremost, anybody who is fighting for peace at this point in time, nobody in their fucking right mind is going to take somebody that just shot a kid in the face and fucked his wife in front. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's going to do that, man. Nobody's going to do that. Okay. So that's something right now. And I apologize right now for putting my energy, but y'all are going to feel this. Shut the fuck up about that worry, because that's not going to happen. It's okay to be pissed off. I have been abused in many, many forms and fashions, and I'm alive. And something that I am thankful that I've been able to really, really start getting a grasp on. Notice I didn't say get a grasp on it. Starting to get a grasp on is first and foremost forgiving myself, and second off, being able to fucking forgive somebody who beat my fucking face in. I had 6.5 hours of reconstructive surgery, but you know what? I learned something from that, and I have continued to learn things about addictions and disorders and programming and subliminal thises and that's, okay? So drop the fucking worry about dragging a violent, crazy-ass motherfucker into the middle of a household where all of this chaos has just been taken. Okay, so just drop that shit. Now,
Because it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. That's not what we're talking about.
I want to say
Well,
this.
Hold on.
it was Jedi's concern.
I know.
So, and I want to get on Jason's wagon for a minute and say how important it is, Jason. This doesn't lessen the fact. Listen, when I hear fight fire with fire, I just spent $30,000 defending my daughter and getting her nursing license back. When the law enforcement officers told me they don't see anybody recovering from a crack addiction that's gone as far as she has. They said, and these are street cops that have been out on the street and arrested the same people over and over and over and over again. And so if I had listened to them, I said, well, there's no hope. She'd just leave her alone. Okay. Now this. She not only got her nursing license back, she's going after her master's degree, getting her nurse practitioner. She bought a brand new house, had a baby, and she's a kickboxing instructor for 24-hour fitness. So redemption is the whole component of this. That we don't have throwaway people, but it may be a little bit of a journey and some effort to get some individuals back on track. But we don't ever give up on anybody, period. Okay.
And that's what I want to say, Dale, and I'm sorry to cut you off, and then I'm going to have to excuse myself for the remainder of this meeting at this point in time. But, the father of my children, okay, so he is a human being. He is, from the last time I saw him, in my opinion, an ass, all right? And I just pray that he wants to and continues to try to get his shit together, because my children deserve to have some form of relationship and vice versa. And if I can make it this far in my life and still be alive and still be in a position to love and feel and be a part of, me, okay? I was the shittiest person I've ever met in my life, man. And I have made it to this point to where I know that I'm not a shitty person. And if I can recover to this point, because I'm not there yet, okay? But if I can recover to this point, to have my sanity where it is intact at this point, man, fucking anybody can. Anybody is capable of doing it. I love you guys very much. This has been wild tonight. I love you guys. I'll see you guys soon, Dale.
Hey, Mim, are you gonna be available a minute? Because I have to agree with what you said 100%.
Sure, I'll stay. I'll stay a little bit longer, and then I gotta go.
It somebody said about keeping families together. It shouldn't. If you get somebody in a system that it shouldn't. If that's the case, if you want to keep families together, it's like a criminal. Once a criminal, you're always going to be a criminal. If you want to do something like that, it maybe have different buildings. And because to me that almost seems like you want to force a family together. Look at Mim, for instance. She don't see eye to eye with him, and she's a strong-willed woman from what I've seen and heard. So why would we put that guy even in? I mean, yes, the kids need the parent, but there's other ways to do it. So why would we put them in the predicament to him around her where it's going to pull her down then?
And that's the whole precisely what we're
Well,
saying.
that wasn't
We're not
that
we're
wasn't
not
the
doing that. Not
Jason
a proposal.
Thomas. That it wasn't the intent. When I say take them, that means depending on the individual families and the individual involved, we tailor a system where they can get back on the road to recovery.
One more thing,
Gail?
I'm gonna go. Just one more thing, guys, okay? I'm blessed, but I have made, up until this point, I have made all of the decisions in the process of where my family has gone. And that is very, very valuable in this because I have personal experience in how to go about dividing or lack of division and, speaking and mediating as far as on behalf of the families. Because at this point in time, I had to make some sacrifices and go do some things that I didn't fucking want to do and learn some more lessons, go to jail, go to rehab, la-di-da, okay? But I got to the point to where I was able to remove myself and my mother and my children because the revolving door hit for the father of my children to where he went back to jail. It happened the same time every year. When he did that, I was finally stable enough to make my move and then get a protective order. Okay. And so now my protective order was up on Friday. My protective order was up on Friday, but here I am in my home. My children are safe with my mother at her home. I'm going to be reinstating the protective order. This is going to give him a little more leadway to go, okay, this is now what you need to do if you would like to get back in touch with your children. And then I'm going to continue to take it from there. It's all about, you can lead a horse to water, you cannot make them drink. And I'm very, very grateful that I've been able to gain that experience and that knowledge of everything, because something that is taking place in the state of Louisiana is working as far as non-corruption of government and non-corruption. There's a lot of that too, but it gets taken care of very, very quickly. I love you guys. Thank you guys for everything. I've got to go now.
Okay.
Thanks, Mim.
See you, Mim. And
wait, Dale, please. I would like to just bring us back for a moment to the confusion here that seems.
Lyra, there's an important point I want to make right here. It's 30 seconds.
Okay.
And Jedi, you keep saying once a criminal, always a criminal, once this, always that. My friend, I was declared incorrigible when I was...
First of all, I want to correct you, Dale. Do not put words in my mouth, ever.
Okay, well, you
Anybody
said...
who knows me, no, Dale. What I said is once an abuser, always abuser. I just lost my sister in December. This is very close and very personal to me. Do not try to stop me because I'm going to tell you exactly how it is. He kept abusing her. He kept abusing her. She was internally bleeding. She finally got away from me. I lost my sister to this shit. You do not keep offenders with children and women. I'm out, Lyra, because this is a very sensitive subject to me, and I'm not healed. I am grieving the loss to my sister. She left 4 beautiful children behind because of a some bitch had to beat her.
I'm sorry, Jedi, that you're hurting so much, and I pray for you and send you my love and healing energy. God bless you.
And
I'd
Lyra,
like to throw out another thought for Dale.
well, listen, I want to finish because I was declared an incorrigible when I was a teenager, when I was about 15 years old. I spent 6 months in a hospital for the criminally insane, okay, because of my violence. And I was written off and ready to spend the rest of my life in custody. So
Yeah, you're right.
don't when you say and I know I can hear your
Hold
anger,
on one.
your bitterness, your resentment, and your hatred, and I understand it. Okay, it doesn't change. It doesn't change the horrific things that I did to people, and not necessarily children in this case. But I I got to the point, and I was blessed with I was blessed with so many things and so many people that loved me and gave me unconditional love, including my therapist and my doctors and the psychiatrist. And over time, okay, I I I restored my capacity to think. Okay, which is really Hannah Arendt wrote a book after World War II. When you lose the ability to think, that's when evil takes place. When you act on impulse, and so everybody can change. And it doesn't mean that you put a Bengal tiger in a cage with a 4-month-old baby. No, that's and you never do that as long as they're a Bengal tiger. But if that over time they are able to change and become, quote, normal, reasonable, thinking, empathetic human beings, then so that's the capacity that we want to do. We want to restore families that have been broken, even the abuser, okay? Because at one time, that he wasn't an abuser, but he became abuser because he was abused. Okay, so it's a chain that has to be broken.
Yes, it is. You're right, Dale. But we want everybody to understand we're not ever suggesting that we put an abuser with a child. We're not suggesting that at all. And I apologize if you got emotional, Ryan, and I feel your pain. And I want to now introduce, we have a new parent that has just joined us tonight, Nevea.
Yeah,
Nevea, is that her name?
Nevea.
Nevea, welcome. There is a scroll menu at the bottom of your screen, and there are options. One of them is chat. It should come up when you scroll down to the bottom of the Zoom screen, and you can see what's going on in the chat windows as well as what we're talking about here on the video conference. Please welcome and introduce yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I don't know how this works because I'm not a technology person, but hi, my name is Nevea, and I also have been through the system with my son. His name is Gunnar, and we're from Arizona originally. No longer live there. We live in southern British Columbia area, sort of, ish. And my son is 17 and a half now. He's been through a lot. He's pretty great. He's quite involved as well in all of this, and on board for wanting to sue CPS as soon as he turns 18. We were screwed over pretty hard, and my son's situation was a little bit different than some because he was 13 when this thing began, and because of that, excuse the noise, by the way, you guys, I have like 1,000 dogs, but seriously, there's like 4 of them in the house, so they make a lot of noise. But he was 13, and at the time, they were forcing him to go on visitations, and he didn't want to go. And if I didn't send him, of course, interference with judicial proceedings, custodial interference, I go to jail, then he's with the abuser full time. There weren't any options. Dad wasn't willing to get any help. He wasn't even admitting to what he was doing at this point. And so Gunnar ran away. To make a long story short, he ran away, and we went through some really painful time with that, and it took 3 years to sort itself out. And it wasn't until karma caught up and he started abusing someone else, and it's just a matter of time before that happens, right? But while you're going through it, it seems like a lifetime. And then there was an additional almost close to another year after that happened before they actually signed all the paperwork, because the system didn't want to be wrong so bad. But the amount of damage that happened during it has caused both my son and I to be really untrusting of people. I think talking to other people that have been through it has been extremely healing for myself, and I'm pretty sure my son too. He's starting to open up and talk to some of the people in the movement right now, which is great. And he's done some fabulous things and been involved in some programs. Like I said, I think in some ways we're maybe like a little bit of a success story, but that doesn't make us have any less PTSD, have us any less stressed, always looking over our shoulder, hypervigilant, constantly knowing we're just a second away from, another court hearing because he's not quite 18. It's been difficult. So that's a little bit about our story, and that's just barely scraping the top. That's just one layer. It's pretty multidimensional, and there was a lot of trauma and a lot of corruption in the system. Judges, lawyers, best interest attorneys, child protective services. He was one of those children in the year of 2013, the 6,600 uninvestigated cases. We were just a number.
Yeah.
Not sure when that number is going to come up, but probably long after Gunner sues the state of Arizona. So it doesn't matter anymore, that portion of it. The biggest thing that matters for us is that we're safe, but we seem to both be getting healing out of talking to other people that are in the movement that have been through it, and just the amount of things that people go through and how you can support one another. I think it's been the best thing, just to get to know other people and know, wow, you're not alone. They make you feel like you're alone. They make you feel like you're crazy. They make you feel like you've done everything wrong. And when you hear everybody else's story, you're like, wow, this is happening everywhere. And it's a validation. It's a feeling of validation. Sometimes all you need is to be validated. So that's pretty much it. I don't know how to use this thing, so hopefully I'll figure out how to navigate it along the way in these groups. And it's nice to feel the support of another support group. So thanks for that, you guys, and inviting me to join this.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
And
Thanks.
I wanted to get back to Jason just for a second, because
Sure.
Jason, when you talk about how important it is, you're in the process of going after the pedophiles, and that's a necessary thing that has to be done, because you got to break up these institutions that are making money out of this.
Exactly. The
Yeah,
privatized prisons.
that's
It's a cash cow. It's a racket.
exactly, and we're talking about billions worldwide. We're not talking about small potatoes. So the incentive is there now, and this other issue of fighting fire. Man, I'm all on Jedi's side about getting in the courtrooms and using the laws to our advantage everywhere we can.
Exactly. That's
So having a legal component to this is really critical, because if I in my case with my daughter, if I hadn't had really, really, really good legal counsel, she'd probably still be on the streets, playing the strawberry,
I need to get something off my chest though right now.
Go for it, Jason. But first, let me just say this one small thing, and that is thank you, Nevaeh, for joining us tonight, and we appreciate your contribution. I just want you to be validated in that.
Thank you, Nevaeh.
Thank you. Yeah, my son's usually by my side, just to let you know. So
Okay.
you're all-
Hey.
Before, I still would like to put my food for thought into Dale when you get around to it.
Yeah, but I have to say is fuck the system too. So
You guys will love him. Believe it or not, he's got 3 years of junior law enforcement training behind him. He has had, every amazing opportunity thrown at him. And like I said, I told Ryan a lot of times, I don't know why or how we've been giving so many blessings. And at the time, we weren't really looking at them. We were looking at all the negatives. So it's always really, really good to just look for those positive things that are there, because they are there. They're blessings, right? And
That's right.
now I look back, a lot of them, it just, we were so stuck in the shit, and our minds were just so stuck in the shit that we weren't, looking at our cup being half full. It was always half empty. So I'm really glad to say that, now everything is half full, even if we're having.
Hey,
That's good. That's good to hear. And, it's okay to have these expressions of fuck the system, being angry at the system. We can be angry, but, what we're talking about here is establishing something that's going to replace it, that people won't be angry with, that we can actually create a better, more wholesome community environment for families to be reaffirmed. And for, even, it's like, I was a victim of domestic violence. I'm a veteran of domestic violence. And so I recognize that the violent offender did not want to change his attitude. He did not want to acknowledge that he was being violent, and there was nothing that I could do to change that. And we're not trying to force somebody to change here, but we need to be able to offer them the opportunity to change.
Yep.
And it has to be their decision. And with that, I want to give Michelle the microphone, because she did want to speak and ask some questions of Dale. Michelle? Hello?
You mean Marilyn?
I'm sorry, Marilyn.
No.
Sorry about that.
Okay, I want to throw this out, because the best thing of tonight's conference is what Dale is proposing.
Well,
Okay,
it's
I'm
the
from Hawaii.
Coalition for the Protection of Children and Families that has been working on this, and Dale is a very key component of this, but we have been working on this as a group. I just want to put that out there.
All right, I have some information for Dale to think about. I've already brought it up. Is that when you're talking about being licensed and having the court recognize you as a sort of respite home, as an alternative CPS, that's going to be a tough one to get over, because there's
my friend of 50 years, Bill, this is a watershed event, Bill Beverly, because we've been on opposite ends of the fence from the standpoint of politics and philosophy. And when this is the first time that when I approached him, and I never approached him professionally because I knew his point of view, but I always considered him a friend. And so this is a very carefully crafted. His dad was an assemblyman in the state assembly, Assemblyman Beverly, and he was an assistant district attorney in Torrance. He now runs his own practice in commercial real estate. So,
hey, Dale.
Yeah.
You didn't let me finish what I was going to tell you.
Okay.
Okay. And by the way, I'm 70 years old, so I'm not 20. I've been researching all this stuff for 5 years after we put up with a hellacious case. Now, here's an example of how what you're thinking about doing was being done and probably is being done in many states. I just don't know what the name of the agency is. In Hawaii, there's an organization that hires highly qualified social workers, and they called their agency Healthy Start. And what they did.
What is the name of that? What is the name of that organization?
The YWCA Healthy Start program.
Help you start?
Healthy Start.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You got you.
Let me explain this to you now. They go into hospitals, the maternity ward, and they hand out a flyer to every single new mother in the maternity ward. And it's an offer for them to come into their homes twice a month to help them with all kinds of stuff related to parenting skills.
Yep.
Related to parenting skills, child development, all this stuff. People from all walks of life sign up for this. Not just low income people who maybe don't have any parenting skills, but people who, new moms who have a lot of parenting skills. Okay, it's a totally voluntary program. Once they come into your home, and I've actually had them come into my home for a family member, a mom. Once you sign up for that, you can cancel it at any time, purely voluntary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now what I'm talking about here is catching families who have needs years before CPS and the judge ever gets wind of it.
Yeah, that's
what
it.
we
Prevention.
want.
Prevention, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The whole society. Right. Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah,
so
that's 100%, 150%.
Okay. Now, way back in the covered wagon days, we had people who were neighbors help neighbors. 2017 is not that way. People are busy. They're struggling to make a living. They're busy. They don't bother to get in touch with their neighbors and have little tea parties and stuff like that. Okay, but what I'm saying is this Healthy Start program, it didn't save everybody from abusing their children or neglecting their children, because the ones who didn't sign up were going to hurt or abuse their children anyway. So you don't save everybody, but you help the ones who recognize that they need some help. And that's the best that anybody can do. CPS walks in there into people's homes, and they help children, families who don't need any help. They put kids into foster care who shouldn't be into foster care, you see. So with your habitat idea, I think it's excellent, but stay as far away for as long as you can from trying to get licensed and hooking yourself up in any way to a judge, a lawyer, licensing, and all that, because I've seen it work in my state. They defunded it about 8 years ago because they decided to give more money to CPS, which was a shame. But I saw that program and how it worked, and I'm telling you, it was excellent.
Well, the little nexus that we want is the capacity. So when the law enforcement officers come on the scene, that we're an option in their toolkit.
No. Now here, in every single state, if a law enforcement officer walks into a home and there's a child in the home, the law says they have to contact CPS, period, end of story. That's what the law says.
Well, obviously, it's gonna take some legislation to put this component into the mix.
Yes,
it's not there yet.
I'm just saying.
That's right.
I'm saying that with your habitat idea, reach out to the public without making a big deal out of it.
We're going to do that.
That's what we're doing. That's exactly what we're doing.
We're going to do that as well. So this process that we're going through is going to have a lot of different moving parts, but it's going to be comprehensive. So all the bases are covered.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine, but start with the idea of word of mouth. Hey, do you know a family down your street? Right now. Okay.
That's the whole idea here is to talk to those families, to become that intervention that is that nonviolent option, to help provide the resources as a faith-based entity. So we aren't at all associated with government because we are coming in as a faith-based entity. That
my point here is stay as far away from the government as you can for as long as you can, and reach out to as many people as you can just by word of mouth, a notice in a laundry room bulletin board. Hey, need a little help? Call me. Kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I'll bet you get a lot of families just by doing that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Marilyn.
That's what you want to do, because the other ways are more complicated than I'm willing to take on. But see, the idea is a good one.
The thing here that you got to understand is the state's bankrupt, and so and when you seek funds from the state, then you're attached to all their wherefores and therefores. If we, as an independent organization, we're just there, and by word of mouth, we have to see we have to fly the airplane first. Everybody has to look at it and say, yeah, it's an airplane and it flies. If we're in place and we're functioning and we're taking care of families anyway, then it's a hop, skip, and a jump to get a little rubber stamp and say, okay, well, if the state facility's overcrowded, and if you need a place to put kids, take them to them. Okay.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was trying to get across. Is do it the simple way for as long as you can.
Yeah. Well, we have to build the model. The plans are in our head, and now we're just putting it together, in the real world. And
look at Olive Crest. I didn't research it all the way, but I know basically how that works. Is that it's a church, sort of, where the church finds these families who need help. And it's the church families who actually take in families. It's the members of the church. And so they don't even have to build a house. They'll take a whole family into their home. They foot the bill for the food, the clothing, all that stuff. So it's actually a church family that takes in another family, probably not a family of 8, but, a family who needs a hand up and help. And they do this within the church, but somehow or other they're connected with CPS.
Yeah.
Which I don't.
Yeah, well, this is.
But look up Olive Crest. Yeah, see if you can get more detail.
The reason why there's an opportunity right now because of this distressed economic condition. There's a lot of properties that we can actually get possession of, and rehab and make available to families. So this is the thing, to get these distressed properties and have a physical place where the families can function without any pressure of having to worry about the electrical bill or the payments or a situation where it's great if there are those families that can have the capacity to take on an additional load. But the idea, if we can create an organization and get control of this real estate and have these habitats available, then it's a no matter what situation. If we have volunteers that say, listen, send them to me, that's fantastic. But we have to have a place no matter what. So habitat's a big component of this program.
And we're not talking we're not talking about building habitat. We're talking about rehabbing. That's
existing
it. I know,
habitat.
but what I'm saying is, then this is not my area of expertise at all. Then I guess you have to look at the liability issue.
Yes.
See that's way more than I'd want to take on. But I suppose you put a family into a home other than a private home, then you got to look at all those liability issues too.
It is a private home.
Yeah, it is a private home in a sense. The only issue that we have is you not only have to have a habitat, but you have to have a program so that the family's being served. And by resourcing the volunteers of these universities and the social sciences and the community, because they're retired teachers, and I'm 70 years old. I'm a retired mechanical contractor, and I'm 67. They're close to it. So and getting these people that that's why I'm more focused on people than money, because people are going to do it, and the money will come.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm right on board with where you are, but you've got to have, there are many different situations. So you have to have many different facets to accommodate all of the possibilities, you know.
Yeah, and you do have retired people who can fill in the gaps for
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
that's, and we can go
This is
to senior centers. See, I work at the senior center 2 times a week, and I've already initiated discussions on getting seniors involved in helping with daytime care, watching children. This is based on a program that was introduced on NPR. They have, in certain communities, grandparents will watch over children, even children they aren't related to, but it's in a daycare slash kindergarten type of a setting, and the parents go to work. I mean, of course, the elderly adults are approved and have the ability to watch after these children, but these young children are very curious and want to learn from their elders, and this is bringing back and
the
bridging.
culture,
Right.
the culture of the ancients and the elders.
And
Yeah.
this is about
So
bridging
then,
the gap
so
between
then you're
the
solving
age,
the problem of daycare.
right? And
Now
I
you're
mean, there's
solving, and that's what a lot of parents and families, they get into trouble because they go to work and leave their kids at home unsupervised. Then CPS comes knocking on the door. So
exactly.
that is.
You know, and Lyra, I have personal experience because the person who taught me about unconditional love, my grandmother raised 9 kids during the Depression and adopted one who that the parents couldn't afford to take care of. She came up to Alaska when she was 72 years old and raised the 5 of us. You know, and so I know what unconditional love is, and you know, Mim and I talked about one of the components that we would have as a nonprofit, faith-based organization was Grandma's World.
Grandma's World, yes.
Grandma's World, you know.
Or
So
and Grandpa's World. I mean, we got to have Grandpa's
well,
World too.
yeah, but listen, when it comes to who I'm going to go with, if there's Grandpa or Grandma, I'm hanging on Grandma's skirt because she's got all those goodies that Grandpa doesn't have. You know, when I get a little older and I want to play football, then yeah, Grandpa's okay. But when I'm a little guy, Grandma rules. So.
Well,
Well, in the meantime, my focus is legislation.
And
that's what I do.
That's it.
That's a good thing for you to focus
huge.
on, and
huge,
it's very huge. And this
and
is
Jason, this is an opportunity that here's a lady that has a lot of experience and she's focused on legislation. So I'd like to make some kind of a connection because you guys need to get together because that's where the battle of.
We would like to make that connection, and we're working also with the Family Rights Party on legislation as well. And I'll have more to report on that after next week because I'm going to meet everybody, and we're going to be having our first little convention down in San Francisco.
Oh.
And did you want to invite a guest speaker, as we discussed earlier?
Apparently it's all taken care of. I'm the secretary. I'm just there to facilitate. Thank you, though. And we will be wanting to have speakers at future events, and we'll definitely contact you to get some connections going with that. Absolutely.
Okay. Because that's happening in a couple of other states as well.
Yes.
Lawyers are getting forums together in groups of about 100 or more, and they're teaching parents what their rights are.
Yes, that's great. And we got to get a list of those together to provide for parents to be able to know where to go to. And it sounds like that's another thing I got to look into.
Yeah.
You know, if parents knew what their rights were, CPS would be downsized by a half.
At least, for sure. The actual fundamental rights of parents is protected under the United States Constitution, but
And a
states
lot of
don't
people
care.
don't want to read it. A lot of people
No.
don't want to read it. They don't care about it, and then they wonder why they get fucked over, man. Excuse my French, but it's the truth.
No,
Learn it.
I mean, we've already said fuck the system and everything here in this group, so don't worry.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, man.
No, all they have to do is ask for a warrant when somebody knocks on the door.
That's what, but the thing is that our society has been dumbed down. I don't know if any of you have read the book Dumbing Down of, what is it?
Well,
The Dumbing Down of America. That's the name of the book. And it talks about how the public education system has been structured to do exactly that and create nothing but machines or worker ants, basically, of our children.
That's by design.
Yes, it is by
Yeah.
design. Exactly.
well, here's the thing. Everybody knows that a police officer knows they need a warrant to enter a home.
Not
to search
everybody
a home.
knows that. That's just it.
Well,
Nevaeh,
that's true, but police officers know that. And they usually don't violate that one because it gets drummed into their head during their training. What parents don't know is that CPS workers
They
have the
exploit your-
same.
They exploit your ignorance, man. If you
wait.
Yeah.
S- Okay, one person at a time, please. Nevaeh,
Yeah.
Go.
Okay, so they usually don't, but we had a situation where we were, my son and I opened up the door, and not that, but my older son, he was 22 or something like that. Anyways, we opened up the door, and it was the full Mesa, Arizona Police Department in complete SWAT. This is while I was going through this, and they were looking for the runaway without a warrant, and told my son and I we had to come out. My first, the first thing that came out of my mouth when I looked at him, because he had on a shield that you could see through with glasses underneath the shield, an assault rifle stuck on his back with a whole line of SWAT team behind him, a big black shield, and in blocky letters it said Mesa PD on it. Mesa and then PD. Like this will never leave my mind, the details of this. And my son and I were the only ones over 18, so he made my oldest son and I come outside, and there was a bunch of neighbor kids inside my home, and they had those children sit up against a wall, and the children said they came in and did a strategic march through the whole apartment looking for him. Every closet, opened every cabinet, the refrigerator, everything without a warrant. My first statement to him is that a Glock, because he had it down like this, pointed towards the door when I just barely opened it. I had nothing to hide, so maybe I should have slammed the door. But when there's a bunch of guys that are pretty intimidating in law enforcement with assault rifles on their back and a Glock pointing at you, it can really change how you feel about opening that door or not. And I was afraid I was going to get shot, and I wasn't going to be there for any of my kids. And I had 7 kids, that I raised. I'm not I'm not going to see my future grandchildren. All those thoughts come running through your head, and the door was already open this much. We opened it. We had nothing to hide. Gunner was not in there. He ran away. And those children, I'm sure, will always be traumatized that were in there. And some of them weren't even my kids. They were just playing video games. And you know what they said? We're really sorry. We had to make sure everyone was safe. And they left.
But I had a parent just last month who had the same thing happen with her, with the police present, bashed her door in without a warrant.
Yeah.
She went after him and got a settlement for violating the court. So
I was so
usually,
the time, I don't care.
not a lot of police dare do that, but it does happen. It sure does.
We were, I guess, one of the exceptions. Not something that I'll get.
Thank
I
God.
have a bill for that. I have a legislative bill for that. It's very cool.
Well, we would love
to come out.
We would love to see that and share that with the Coalition for the Protection of Children and Families if you haven't already done so. Otherwise,
Well, actually, I did. I
Okay.
did show you that. I posted it, but people don't see.
Love to see that.
Well, what
Well,
they
anyway,
will
I do have a bill.
they will start looking for it now, because we have parents and advocates come on this show to talk about what you're doing and what is working to bring children back, and what you're doing to support healthy family environments and healthy living in everyday life. And we then publish these videos on the Coalition for Protection of Children and Families and other network boards, as well as on the website at coalitionforprotection.com.
And I, myself, I am more optimistic than I've ever been in my whole life. And in the face of all the stuff that's going on, I see so many powerful things that are in starting to form that are going to make a big difference in the way the world operates. And all of us here tonight are part of that.
Yes, we
Well,
are.
prevention is it. Prevention is number one.
Prevention
Dale.
is definitely.
Yeah, well, and that's why I bring physicians for the Committee of Responsible Medicine. It's all about, the health is about prevention. If you can prevent it, it's an ounce of prevention is worth 100 pounds of cure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And listen, please come and join us every Saturday at 7, because this is like the boiler room. We're just gonna cobble it out.
Make everybody, help everybody, we're encouraging parents everywhere. We're also bringing connections, because we have Jason from kindergarten here who's getting rid of pedophiles every day, which is what needs to happen on a mass everywhere. And then we have Marilyn, and we have Dale, and we have me, and we have Ryan, and we have other parent advocates, and we're all working together here with our individual strengths, and together we will definitely make things better for everybody.
In Jason's court, I just want to say, pedophilia is kind of a vague and ambiguous term, but we're talking about trafficking, and we're talking about billions of dollars. So this is a big deal. It's like your little kid is a big sugar plum. If they can either kidnap it or entrap it or get it to manipulate it to their advantage, so they can make money out of your child.
It's a terrible situation, and we are all knowing of the foster care system being deeply involved. I mean, Mim was talking about that earlier, how much children from the foster care system end up in the trafficking industry, and so that's just unforgivable. So thank you.
Has anyone here done any research or seen the Molly McGrath Tierney videos?
I've heard of them. I haven't seen them.
Go to YouTube and watch Molly McGrath Tierney on TED Talk.
Can you put that in the chat box so we can copy it?
I think she's on the
No,
phone.
because I'm on the phone and I see no chat box. I see nothing.
That's okay. I just did, but I sent it to Jason. So hold on, I'm going to send it to everybody.
This is important for Jason to get these resources, so we can start building.
Jason,
I
hi.
have 900.
Oh my!
I have 900 documents in my computer files, and I picked the best of the best.
That's
Molly McGrath Tierney is a DHS administrator in Maryland, in Baltimore. I think she just left, but she was there for 7 years, and she said the foster care system does not work.
That's right.
So
And there's
You want to watch Molly.
And there's one from the Department of Justice that in Southern California busted the sex trafficking ring down there. And that was what Ryan was talking about, how his sister and cousin, no, his cousin was involved in that and had been trafficked from Arizona to California. So they're transferring children across the border between states and even sending them to other countries. So this is a big, big thing. Okay, Jason, you back. Welcome back.
Do any of you guys know anything about what's it called, Stockholm syndrome?
I am a veteran of that.
A victim of it, you mean?
Yeah, well, I try to be a veteran. I don't want to let it continue affecting.
Well, yeah. I kind of got my own personal thing going on with a loved one that dealt with that. It involves everything from sexual abuse to rape to
Physical abuse, mental
not
abuse.
physical. So let's just put it this way: we got me and this loved one that I have got her daughter away. This was in the last week. Got her away from this guy, and this was within the last week. There's a lot that's happened in my life in the last week. I'm very angry about this particular situation, and but I was going somewhere with this, man, and I don't remember. My mind went blank on me. But yeah, I can't remember what I was going to say. My mind went blank.
Well, it's a very
But
traumatic. Thank you.
yeah, I've been dealing with a lot of stuff, but I also wanted to talk about something else. But I think I sent you a private message, so I'll talk later.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jason, and keep on keeping on. You're doing great work over there, and like I was saying earlier, Dale and I and a couple of other people were working on putting the umbrellas together, covering the Coalition for Protection of Children and Families, covering Boulder Gardens. And, if that's something you would be interested in getting involved in being covered by the UHF, right, Dale?
Yeah, UFK.
UFK, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Universal Faiths of Cosmin. And, basically, Jason, it's our gestalt is very simple.
Is there a website or a?
Yeah, UFK. It's UFK.
UFK dot what?
It's just if you just Google the Universal Faiths of Cosmin, it'll come up. And you can take the WASPI and the religion and boil it all down to very, obey the law, do no harm, and if you and figure out just whatever you do good works collectively, work together for the good.
Did I spell that right, Dale?
Yeah, that was Universal Faithists of Cosmons, KOSMON.
MON. Okay, I misspelled it a little bit, but I got most of it.
It's a religion. It has a book, and it's all about doing the work. Good works.
Doing the great work.
Yeah.
Doing the great work of supporting community, of supporting self-sustainability, of supporting family values, of bringing bridging the gap between the generational gap, bringing people back into bringing humanity back to people and to community and to
honoring
the world.
And Jason, it's all about honoring the sacred breath of life. And that's the basis of spirituality. Life is sacred. It's not ours to abuse or kill or use. It's ours to love and cherish. So and that's and nonviolence is the key component. That we love our enemies, and we use General Sun Tzu's strategy of the supreme art in war. It is to subdue your enemies without fighting them. You just have to, get more light, get more understanding, and have a more powerful argument, you know. And so the tools we use is our Creator's wisdom and gentle persuasion.
Okay.
But well, and we still do hold those accountable who have done us wrong. It's just not in an
No, there's
abusive
no,
manner.
and Bishop Tutu and Mandela, the Bishop Tutu said, you know, you have to confront the people that you are guilty of abusing and using and hurting and killing and torturing, and you have to sit down with those individual police officers that were part of the apartheid regime, had to sit down with the families that they were guilty of injuring and ask for their forgiveness. That as a physical thing that had to take place, and that act of forgiveness, because there was a in the tribes in the Zulu tribes and the I forget the LRF or PRF or the organization that was fighting apartheid militarily, they just wanted to push the whites right into the ocean, and Bishop Tutu said no, and Nelson Mandela both said no. We're just going to continue. If it's an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, all that happens is everybody ends up blind. You know, so
And unable to eat, blind and toothless,
or dead. You know, yeah, or dead. You
we
know,
don't
and
want
so that doesn't do anybody any good. And so the idea is we want to stop this cycle of abuse and bullying and violence and change our thinking and our behavior and then change our reality, you know.
Amen to that. And it's not going to be easy, and there are those that will not want to, and we can't force people, but this is the alternative that we are offering to resolve issues before they become so egregious that CPS is going to totally tear your family apart.
This is teaching by example, by your deeds, and showing an example that it is possible to have a better world. All you have to do is change yourself individually.
And amen to that.
And this issue of violence is very, very real to me, because I grew up. My brother-in-law was president of the Hells Angels in the '60s in Hermosa Beach, California, and I got past just being totally psychopathic, but I still had this idea that there was righteous violence, that you have a right to act out violently against somebody if they're evil or Satan. Well, I had this experience where I made that judgment call, and what happened is they couldn't stop the bleeding, and I thought, here I go, I'm going to spend the rest of my life in prison for what? Nothing. And that's when from that point, when I saw that this violence is not the answer.
It can be. It can be.
As long as you believe that, Jason, as long as you believe that cycle of violence is going to continue.
No. You're taking it out of context. Let me explain something. Okay. I'm a survivor of 5 stabbings. I've had my head split open with a pipe. I've endured a lot of violence in my life. I've dished out a lot of violence in my life. Okay. There's been times where, what's going on here? My screen says things.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sharing this while we're talking about the difference between the cycle of violence and healthy relationships to share with everybody.
Okay. Can I get my screen back up here for a minute?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Sure.
It kind of gets me all discombobulated. Okay. What I mean by that is I'm not saying that violence is the answer to everything. What I'm saying is I'm the kind of guy, and I've done this, and I will continue doing this. I will never change as far as this goes. And what it is like, well, first of all, let me kind of back up and give you a little understanding as to how I am. I'm libertarian, so I believe in everybody should be able to do whatever they want as long as they're not hurting or harming anyone. I don't care. They should have that right, and that means for everybody. It doesn't matter what
Freedom.
race you are. It doesn't matter if you're from the gay community. It doesn't matter.
Let freedom ring. I'm in agreement as long as
Okay.
do no harm.
There's been times because of my homelessness and you riding the bus or whatnot. I've been at bus stops, man, where I've watched. There was several different occasions where a black man would be getting harassed because he was black. Okay, and I defended him. Okay, and I was outnumbered. Okay, and I defended him. And the cops got called, and I didn't get in trouble for it. And I dished out a serious ass whooping. I've also done it for gay people too. I've defended them too. Okay, and I use what I'm saying is I will utilize violence within reason, and if it's constitutionally my right. If I have a right to defend somebody, I will do it, and I won't hold back on that. That's what I mean by that. I won't just go out there and just, like, for example, with kindergarten. Yeah, I wish I could go beat up every one of them, but that's not going to accomplish anything. But I can do something else, and that's put the ones that are wanted back in jail. Okay, and I got people out there now that are actually. I just acquired my first hunter today. As a matter of fact, when it comes to kindergarten, I actually have a guy out there right now.
Great job.
In another state, he's running around. I gave him a list. He's running around in that state, confirming that these people are who they are with the address, because I'm finding people's addresses. Okay, and what I'm doing is I gotta find people that I can trust. Well, I found one that I could trust today. He's agreed to run around throughout his state, conduct surveillance, and the person that we think it is, and if it is, he goes to the law and lets them know, hey, you got it, because in non-compliance. If somebody runs from one state to avoid registering in one state, and they go to another state, they're in violation in not one state, but both states. They're violating because they didn't failure to report in the first state, and then the second state that they go to, they didn't go report to begin with. So that's a 10-year sentence in each state. That's the max that they could get in each state. So I have a runner now that's actually going to go get these guys arrested and bring them to justice, because they need to be monitored. You know what I'm saying? So
Good job.
Fight that fight, Jason.
Yeah.
That's
Fight that fight.
I need to get people that are on board with that, and that's where Nevaeh came in. Nevaeh, she's from my state, and that's how we were in a group earlier today. It was not a group, but it was a live chat, and she was part of it, and I was actually watching it, and I discovered when I looked at her profile that she was from the same state I'm in. So I shot her, a friend's request, a message, said, hey, we're in the same state and whatnot. And hence, this is why she's here now. I invited her to this, and here she came, here
Yay.
she is. So,
well, thank you, Jason. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Nevaeh. Thank you, Dale. If you could please just, like, if you have a last word that you'd like to say before we close tonight's meeting. We've had some really great discussions here, and I appreciate all of you for the time you put in tonight.
I have one thing to say.
Go for it, Dale.
Join us next week at 7:00.
That's right, at the Parent Advocate Network for the Coalition for Protection of Children and Families.
Good night, Jason. Listen, man,
Nevaeh?
it's best is yet to come, buddy.
Well, Dale, we're going to have a private discussion with Jason after this, if you are able to. Nevaeh, thank you so much for joining tonight. And hello.
I'll talk to you later, Nevaeh.
Oh, you're cutting out now. You cut out. You must be having a low signal right now. There you are.
Yeah, I live out in the sticks and the Wi-Fi is really bad out here, and we don't know cell phone company works out here. So thank you for the invite, and I hope to see you guys again really soon next week.
Yeah, next week.
Next week, 7 o'clock.
Everybody have a good.
That's right.
Everyone for themselves. Don't forget to take care of yourselves this week.
Amen. That's right. I'll send out Reiki healing for everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Marilyn, thank you.
Marilyn, thank you. See you next week, I hope. And listen, see you guys next week, Jason.
Okay, so you don't want to stay on this now?
Okay, yeah, I'll